Hey guys, Anthony with the Rag Company, and in today's exciting video, we're going to show you how to deep clean and protect your wheels and tires. Let's do it. Today, we are testing out a few different wheel and tire cleaning methods. Now for this, we have two different colored wheels. We have a set of white wheels, and we also have a set of black wheels, and they have something in common. They're both absolutely filthy. Now for this, right, I could of course tackle all this on my own and knock out all 8 wheels, but why do that when we have friends in the industry? So today we have DJ from Armour Detail Supply here in the house, ready to help me clean.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us, guys. We appreciate it.
Dude, thank you for being here. Are you ready to work and get some stuff done?
Absolutely. Let's clean some wheels.
Now, there's a lot of different ways to go about doing this, and a lot of people feel like their way is the best way. And if you feel that way, then cool, because that means that you're probably putting in a decent amount of effort. And I think when it comes to wheel and tire cleaning, it all comes down to effort. How much effort do you want to put in? Today, we are going to be putting in a decent amount of effort to get these wheels cleaned. Now, this is a gloss black finish, and gloss black is typically some of the worst finishes to work on because not only do you have to worry about the brake dust and everything that you can visually see, but then just how delicate that finish is, right? Gloss black, it swirls, it scratches typically easier than other finishes, so you have to take that into account. So when it comes to wheel and tire cleaning, always take into account the wheel finish to know what you're getting into and what your expectation is. And so my expectation here is, well, I got kind of worst case scenario. Let's try to get these as clean as best as we can. I see a gloss black finish that is absolutely caked with brake dust. I could just take my pressure washer and go ahead and rinse everything off. That will probably do something, right? But if I want to make the most use of my chemical, even just a few sprays, going on dry like this on a cool, dry wheel in a shaded area is going to do a lot more for me here at the end because it's actually going to start penetrating that brake dust and make my water much more effective when I do start spraying. Now, I'm not going to use a lot of the wheel cleaner, but just a couple sprays. So for this, I'm going to go ahead 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to let that set for, a few seconds or so. And then after that, I'm going to rinse everything off. And honestly, that's probably going to do a majority of the work here as far as just chemical interaction. So after a few sprays here, we can actually start seeing a lot of that cleaner starting to dissolve some of this brake dust. Now, this does have the thioglycolate in it, so it is going to start turning purple, which looks really nice. Fortunately, this wheel cleaner does smell really good. Good job, DJ. You guys really killed it on this. JDM squash scent, JDM DJ. That makes sense. So it's actually pretty nice to use and really easy to work with. So spraying this on here, I'm gonna let this sit for just a few more seconds because again, we are gonna be using more of the wheel cleaner, but we're gonna try to use this in the right area, right? So now that this has penetrated this, I'm gonna grab my pressure washer here or your hose, whatever you decide to use, and rinse it. We've rinsed everything off here, and to be honest, the wheel is still pretty dirty, right? And that's just because brake dust in general goes through heat cycles, right? These brakes will heat up, the wheels will heat up, and that brake dust will basically just stick further and further as it bakes onto that finish. Now, again, with more often cleans and more maintenance washes, we can prevent that amount of buildup and hopefully can make it easier the next time we wash it. But in this case here, yeah, I'm still seeing quite a bit of filth. So make sure we have some water on here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for max lubrication. And the reason why I'm going for max lubrication in this situation is because we have gloss black wheels, right? Gloss black scratches pretty easily.
Are you subscribed to the Rag Company YouTube channel? Because if you're not, you should be. 90% of the people who are subscribed to this channel have cleaner cars. You do the math. I didn't.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the ADS wheel cleaner. I'm going to do a few more sprays. And for this time, I'm actually going to get some good coverage here. So get down to my barrels, a couple sprays there. Caliper there, that looks pretty good. Now we're going to let this start to set up again. But now the difference here is I'm going to be adding a soap into the mix. Now this is just the ADS Decon soap and an IKE foamer here. And the reason why I'm throwing this in the mix is that, again, I'm now adding more lubrication because of more foam. I'm going to get a little bit more cleaning power because of the Decon soap, which is nice as well, but this is really going to give me that dwell time that I'm looking for. And while this is dwelling, I can then actually knock out the tires as well if I want to do that. So from here, I'm going to take my IK sprayer and I'm going to go right over the top. Getting all the nooks and crannies. Decon soap has been applied to the wheels here. That's something I can use now as lubrication, right? Because when it comes to wheel cleaners, right, you're gonna get a decent amount of lubrication from them, but they're mostly going to begin penetrating a lot of that dirt, right? Now, you can foam a wheel cleaner, 100%, you can absolutely do that, but I find that soap as just a main lubricator is cheaper than diluting more wheel cleaner. So I can do a couple sprays of this, I can get a little bit of soap, put that in here, and I'm talking just a little bit, like an ounce of soap in this, and that's going to help me clean, I don't know, multiple sets of wheels. So you can see here the dwell time is great, but we are kind of losing some of our lubrication. So that tells me that I probably should agitate these wheels first and get all the spokes clean before jumping to the tires. And because, again, it's all kind of running off. So making sure I get a little bit more coverage here. We're going to start with the barrels first. And the reason why I like to start with the barrels first is because I'm going to be pulling that dirt out into the face of the wheel anyways, right? And so I don't want to clean the face of the wheel and then pearl out all that dirt from the barrel back onto that clean face of the wheel. I just want to basically path of least resistance, which would be knocking out the barrel first. So a couple sprays of some ADS wheel cleaner here onto my mini brush. And I'm going to begin working this into the barrels here. So you see what I'm pulling out here onto the face of that wheel? I would be pulling that onto the face of a clean wheel if I already cleaned the faces first, right? That doesn't make any sense. So do that. Barrel's cleaned. I'm going to grab my wheel mitt here. Another couple sprays here, just my wheel cleaner into the mitt just to get it going. And I'm going to start cleaning my spokes. Now, if we're losing some of our lubrication, especially because it's gloss black finish, I can go ahead, hit that again one more time, get some good coverage. Then grab my wheel mitt here and go through and start cleaning. I like doing it like this. It's satisfying on a finish like this. It's not necessarily necessary, but it makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside because I go, oh, look at all that soap. Look at all that soap lubricating everything. And I'll periodically dump back into my bucket there that has more soapy water in it. And then for the lug nut recesses, grab some wheel cleaner right into the brush and work those in. And then one big oversight for a lot of people is the corners of a spoke, right? So for example, you have these corners here. Those corners where brake dust likes to sit. So you can take a brush if you want to, or if you feel like you did a pretty good job with the mitt, you can do that as well. But I just want to get into that and just make sure to get a little bit of cleaner in there. So at this point, right, we have cleaned the wheel, we've cleaned the barrel, we've got the lug nut recesses, made sure to hit all our nooks and crannies, all of our corners. The tires, right? Well, the tires, you could knock out first if you want to knock out the tires first. You can save the tires for last here like we've done here. Really, the reason why I've done this is because when I started spraying everything onto the surface of this wheel, I noticed that I was losing most of my product and lubrication almost immediately. So in my head, I go, okay, well that means I don't want to have to spray more and more chemical. I need to use that lubrication while I still have it. So it tells me, let's clean the wheel first while that's still on there, and then we can knock out the tires later, since this tends to be holding on to a little bit more product, right? So I'm kind of trying to think of a way to save money, but also be the most effective in this process, and it's kind of, you're kind of learning as you're going with every set of wheels and tires that you do. So taking my tire cleaner here, I can let everything set here, because the reason why I don't want to rinse off this right now is I'm going to rinse this off and it's going to get re-dirty. I'm going to have to rinse it off one more time. I'm going to be just doing way too much rinsing. So tire cleaner's on there. Grab my tire scrubbing brush. I always do a spray into the actual brush itself because I feel like it gets it started pretty well. So this tire cleaner, it's already browning on contact, which is nice. And the other kind of cool part about doing your tires last, again, this is just crazy stuff. If my wheels were filthy and for some reason my tire scrubbing brush touched that filthy wheel, I'm now touching that filthy wheel with contamination on it, thus increasing my chance of possibly marring that outer finish, right? Unlikely, but it could still happen. Now, if this touches this outer edge, it's a clean wheel, so I know it's not going to hurt anything. Now that I've made a couple ring arounds of my tire, I think we are good to rinse everything off. The cool part about this method and kind of going about the way we did is that I don't ever really have to touch this wheel again, right? If there's a little bit of soap that comes from the contact wash, it's just a rinsing it off and I'm done. The wheel's clean and I'm good to go. But now the big question is, are you doing your wheels first or are you doing your wheels last? Ideally, in most situations, you're knocking out your wheels and tires first before doing your contact wash on the paint. And so this is clean. This looks totally awesome. I'm really happy with that. So at this point, let's go ahead and show you how, in theory, the rest of the car being washed to go about drying and protecting them. At this point, it's probably the best time to probably add a drying aid if you were going to add some type of drying aid and or kind of protection all in one. So a quick detailer is ideal, right? So this is Amplify from ADS here. And this is great because it's not only going to give some wheels some protection, but it's also going to prevent some hopefully future brake dust in the future or just minimize that. And I mean, at the very least, make it easier to clean the next time. So with water on here, I'm just going to do a couple sprays of my Amplify. I'm going to take my gauntlet here and I'm just going to begin drying the wheel. Now, I do think that the blower method is ideal if you have a lot of excess water, right? Especially in your lug nut holes, especially in your barrels, because then you can use that blower to blow everything out. And so I'll probably still do a little bit of that. But what's nice though is that if you do your Amplify or if you do your kind of drying aid here, you are going to be changing the surface tension of this wheel, meaning that the second you apply this, you're going to get some good water behavior. So after you apply this to the face of the wheel and you go to blow it out with a blower, that water is going to literally just ski right off. So if you have this excess water in your lug nut holes or still in your barrels, it's going to fly off much faster and it's not going to re-dirty the wheel. And so that's kind of one benefit to using something like this that does change the water behavior. So go through, make sure this is all dry. Now the barrels, again, you can kind of get into there with a towel to the best of your ability, but a blower is going to be the best for that, or compressed air. Then from here, you can either take that same towel or you can tape like a cheap towel. This is a rip and rag here. And I'm just going to simply dry my tire off. You can let it air dry before the next dressing part, or you can just take a towel and try to remove any last bit of filth from the tire, because we know we did a good job cleaning it. So now that you've learned a little bit about wheel cleaning, right, we're gonna pass over to DJ, who's gonna kind of walk you through a real-time method of wheel cleaning and showing you his way.
JDM DJ here, and today we're gonna jump into how I clean wheels in our shop. First things first, I always like to put some level of shampoo in our bucket. This just kind of helps keeps the brushes a little bit clean, provides a little bit added lubrication. 1 or 2 ounces in the bucket. One of the biggest difference for us, we like to go in when the wheel is completely dry. If you are a mobile detailer working outside or the wheel's a little bit hotter, we do recommend a pre-rinse because the temperature, the surface temperature is going to be the biggest thing. A good way to tell, if you can always take the back part of your hand, the wheel's completely cool to the touch, you can go in dry, make sure, and you kind of let it sit a little bit longer. So for us, we're going to start with our wheel cleaner simply because that is a longer dwell time than our tire cleaner. People often ask, do I do tires first or do I do wheels first? Again, there's no real right or wrong answer. This is just the way that we kind of recommend doing it and the way that we see is the most efficient. So you're immediately going to see the brake dust and the contaminants reacting so much quicker. So then we're going to go with our tire cleaner. Our ready-to-use tire cleaner is going to come pre-diluted 2-to-1, where the gallon will be a concentrate. Having the decon soap in your like your wheel and tire bucket just gives you a little bit extra foam, a little extra cleaning power, and it does make it just a little bit safer once you get down in kind of your delicate wheel settings. So as the wheels are sitting, this has been about 2 minutes live time. This is exactly what we want to be seeing. A pro tip to look at, anytime you can take your finger and the surface is, the chemical is still wet, you're completely safe. The biggest thing you want to avoid is make sure that the chemical is not drying on the surface. If it gets too dry, you just let it sit too long. Obviously we're indoors right now, ideal situation, conditions are great. We're going to get a longer dwell time on our wheel cleaner than say a mobile detailer or somebody working outside. But the longer you can let it sit, the more it's going to clean. So once we kind of go around with our tires, you want to look for these tires are not terrible, but you do want to see that you kind of have like a nice clean finish. Usually we might go in with a second application if they're really bad, but seeing how much we're pulling out of this first layer, I wouldn't even be overly worried about going in with the second application. So now for me, the order that I like to operate on the wheels, I like to start at the barrels, work my way back out. For me, I always kind of start, you know, you can 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, but I always kind of, you know, start in the same manner. I get as much as I can. You know, some wheels are going to give you a lot more access than others, but utilizing good quality brushes, you can get so much more of a clean without having to always take wheels off for that level of service. And then what I like to do is about halfway through, I like to go back into our bucket and then just pick right back up where we left off. And then I am a big fan of the wheel mitts. I can get the areas right behind the spokes, obviously everything on the front, the lip, all that little areas that the brush did not pick up, we are now picking up with this secondary step. And then your detail brush. This is going to kind of be like your more intricate areas, lug nuts, brake caliper, center caps. So now that your wheels and tires are completely clean, one of the things that we like to do, whether it's a maintenance job or something you're just doing at home for yourself, taking a spray and rinse product like beads, make sure you do a couple sprays in the barrel, a few on the face, you know, let it sit 15, 20 seconds. This is going to just really make your follow-up cleaning so much easier by adding a little bit of protection, a little bit of hydrophobics. It's really going to help release the brake dust for future cleanings. I like to start at the bottom, kind of work my way to the top. And a pro tip with beads, don't try to get too close and flush all of it out. It's a water activated sealant, so you want to make sure you're kind of hitting it with like a finer mitt. So I like to start back a little bit, make sure the product gets spread around, and you're good to go. Obviously, these are white wheels. They're going to be dirty here in a few days, but next week or the week after, when we go up for our follow-up cleanings, it's going to be so much easier and safer. For us, when we're inside the shop, we love to clean our wheels with air. You know, the days of having to go down and you know, do all kinds of crazy drying, this is so much easier by having a hydrophobic surface and utilizing the air cannon. A second way that we can dry our wheels, if we do not have a blower at home, you can grab your favorite drying aid. Obviously, we prefer Amplify. We love pairing them with our 12x12 mini gauntlet. Super simple. A few sprays on the wheel. Make sure you get 1 or 2 in the back of the barrel. For me, I always like to work quadrants. That way I kind of have you know, I know my sections which are clean and dirty. For me, I like to start again at 12 o'clock. Go spoke by spoke. Again, at this point, your wheels are already extremely clean. This is simply just a way to, you know, have a more enjoyable drying process while putting a little bit of protection back on. And then I like to go to my second side, and that's what I'm going to quickly hit the barrels with. And I'm also going to make sure I get to the back side of the spokes as well. And last but not least, the caliper. Now that we got our wheels protected again, utilizing a different drying method, you know, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make sure that our tire is completely dry, but then we're going to hop into our dressing application featuring Tire Plus.
DJ, you finished with your wheel. I finished with my wheel. My wheel face is protected. Your wheel face is protected.
It is.
But the tires need some form of protection, or at least make them look pretty.
For sure.
So what are you going to use?
So today we're going to do a quick demo of our Tire Plus. It's going to be our shorter term water-based dressing. This is what's going to be used in most scenarios.
Yep.
So if we want to go ahead, so the biggest thing, obviously, we want to make sure now that the tire is completely dry. That's the single biggest thing we can do. We ran through all of our steps earlier.
Yep.
Tire is nice and dry. It's ready to accept the protection. Again, a couple sprays to kind of get going. You don't need to overload your applicator, and we'll kind of run over if you see a little bit too much. But for me, when I do it, I always kind of like to start at my 12, work my way around. And again, if you notice, I only sprayed half of my applicator. Obviously, a lot of applicators are used, but we're going to use this one here. And I'm just going to kind of give it a foundation. Right now, I'm not worried about a perfect application. I just want to get tire dressing on the rubber.
Okay. And now this is a stance vehicle, DJ, so it's got some kind of wonky tire fitment on here, but that's okay. It's Carson's, and he'll eventually grow out of this. But in the meantime, it's, you know, it is what it is.
Correct. So with this lip, once we kind of have our application, you know, we're kind of, you know, presetting our dressing. I'm just gonna kind of take the applicator a little bit, work in that groove. And if you notice, it's not just a one motion, it's just a constant back and forth, because it's gonna self-level for you. If you notice any area that has like, you know, any kind of streaking or a little bit of, you know, like sweating almost, honestly, a lot of times it's just we're dressing where you just went a little bit too heavy.
Gotcha.
It's going to kind of give you like a light to medium shine.
Yeah.
For some of the people, you know, if you guys do want a little bit more of a shine, you know, go around the car. Let's just say it takes you 5 minutes. By the time you get back to the first tire that you started on, you can go ahead and jump into a second application if that's the route you want to go.
Gotcha. So could you spray on Tire Plus and just let it dwell and then knock it down?
You can. A lot of times for like, say your bigger SUV or your truck tires that have more knobs, what I'll do is I'll kind of open Tire Plus up to like the wider, you know, fan setting, you know, 6 or 7 sprays around the tire. But then what I'll do is I'll kind of take my applicator and kind of push it into those, you know, all those little grooves.
Right on. No, that looks awesome. And I think Tire Plus is really easy and you get a lot of bang for your buck because that bottle will last you a very long time. You only did a couple sprays and that looks awesome. So that's Tire Plus. That's going to be your shorter term protection, but it's going to look really good. It's going to dress the tires, obviously, and it's really, really easy to use. So now what if we wanted to take something like this and make it last 10 times as long?
Then we could jump into our Ghost, which is also a water-based dressing. Why don't we do a demonstration on the one you did?
Let's do it. I got myself some ADS Ghost here, which is going to be our long-term tire sealant. And you have something from Coach Kemi.
I do. So the single biggest thing when you want to apply our Ghost, even though it's still a water-based dressing, prep is always going to be ideal for everything we do. Starting with a solvent is going to deep clean the tires. Anything that our tire cleaner may not have gotten before, especially if you have, you know, any kind of old silicones or you're using solvent-based dressings in your normal tire dressing application anyways, in order for Ghost to bond properly, this is what you're going to want to start with, is your solvent-based.
Gotcha. Okay.
Solvent removes solvent.
Yep. So we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of Ulex
Yep.
and we're going to apply that to a ripping rag. Yeah.
Yep, we're going to have a ripping rag.
Something, basically a disposable towel or like an old towel.
Correct, something that you don't mind tossing. For me, anytime I do Ghost applications, I kind of just toss it when we're done.
Okay.
So for me, I kind of just always kind of start on the corner.
Okay.
You know, again, just to get a little bit going, we will repeat this process a couple times. Okay. For me, I kind of divide the tire into quadrants.
Gotcha.
So I'll kind of start here. Again, you notice the same theme. I always kind of start at my 12 o'clock. So for here, I'm going to do 12 to 3. It's kind of like my section.
Yep.
Just going to go over it a couple times. You'll see it flash off.
Yep.
And you're going to see how much more we're pulling simply from a solvent.
Yeah.
You know, we're giving ourselves the best chance
Of this sticking.
of getting, you know, the longevity, the performance that we're looking for. Now I'm going to go from my 3 to my 6. Once that flashes away, now I'm going to switch over to a clean side, repeat the process for my 6 to 9, and now I'm going to go my 9 to 12. And if you know that you've been using a solvent-based dressing for the last, you know, 6 months, year, a second application of Ulex will not hurt you as well.
Tire is now prepped, looks awesome, ready to accept our Ghost dressing. So pop the top on this, and for this, I'm going to apply it the same way. How much? You tell me when I'm stopping.
Again, a little is going to go a long way. It's always easier to add a little bit more than it is obviously to take some away. That's a good amount. Yep, perfect.
Okay, so we'll stop there, and that will be just to show you kind of the applicator there, how much I have on there. Ghost does come out kind of a grayish color, right?
Correct.
That's
So
normal.
Ghost is a combination. It will be an acrylic foundation. It is obviously still a water-based dressing, but it's just going to be our long-term, we call it a tire sealant.
Gotcha. Okay, so then I'm going to come over here, and for this, I will start at my 12 o'clock, right? And I'm going to start making my ring around.
Correct.
So we're going to go ahead and do.
And so with the amount that you put on, I would probably do 12 to 6, kind of, you know, just to kind of work it in. Again, you can kind of treat it as a found. If you want to do the whole tire, finish right here. Okay. Kind of do it at one time. This is kind of setting your foundation. Once the whole tire has that foundation, now we can kind of take our time, make sure that we're working everything in. You know, different tires are going to present different things. You know, some of these tires have these like little ribbed grooves that, you know, you kind of want to be, you know, more methodical about to make sure that we're really getting into the groove.
Yep.
But exactly what you're doing is going to be perfect. You know, this is going to be you do have to be more mindful when you are doing a Ghost application than you are, say, a Tire Plus application. Tire Plus is going to be designed for someone who just wants that quick, 7-10 day kind of protection, but it doesn't come with nearly the level of prep. If you are going to do a ghost application, whether you're a consumer at home and you want to do it on your own cars, or you're a business and you want to, upsell this option or give it to, say, a special customer because someone would really appreciate that long-term tire dressing, just keep in mind that when Ghost is going to be applied, there are going to be additional prep steps, but those additional prep steps will literally make the entire difference of longevity and performance.
Gotcha. So at this point right here, so the tire, we actually see the letters, right? We can see some of that Ghost kind of into the nooks and crannies of certain places, and we can see that that tracer, right? So there's a blue tracer in there.
Which is the acrylic.
And so we can see that in there. So at this point, what's my next process?
At this point, we just want to really look for, I call them like our identifiers. Okay. As long as we see that we have a consistent, shine and gloss level to like the edges, we have a little excess right here. Okay. We want to make sure that that fine lip gets it as well, because anywhere we don't get, once this dries here in about 10 or 15 minutes, is going to be pretty obvious. Okay. So again, it's just an application that, it requires a little bit more attention, but you get so much more of the benefit, being a long-term tire sealant. But you'll see right now how it has a little bit of like a blue hint. Mm-hmm. It's just still a little bit damp. As it cures, this goes clear, tire becomes extra black, and then we're going to be in a good spot.
Cool. Sweet. So let's go ahead and give it a little bit of time, and we'll see you here in just a few minutes.
Yep.
So me and DJ just finished up with our wheels and our tires. We used a couple different methods there about wheel cleaning. You had your method, I had my method. Both are awesome, and both utilize good products, good techniques, and good tools. And we were left with very clean wheels. Now, we did a little bit of a different application for our tire dressing. Tire Plus.
We did.
I did Ghost.
Yep.
Both are awesome, right? Tire Plus if you're wanting to dress your tires more often. Ghost if you are wanting to do it once for a long period of time.
Correct.
How long does Ghost last for typically?
On a daily driver, you're going to see between 2 to 3 months.
Nice, which is pretty dang good. And these,
as long as you put the prep work in.
And these tires do look awesome. But again, the prep work is probably one of the most important steps. That's going to be it for us, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you took some tidbits of information to apply some of these techniques yourself, or maybe the full technique yourself. But as always, we are left with clean wheels. We had fun doing it. Our tires look awesome. And we appreciate DJ flying all the way out from the other side of the country to come shoot videos with us.
Thanks, dude.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Absolutely. So as always, if you guys enjoyed this video and want to see more detailing content, please make sure to give us a big thumbs up, subscribe down below for more, and stay tuned for more videos right here at The Rad Company.
Take care, guys.